So we're going to talk about stress and the results of how we interpret things, how maybe our experience isn't quite what it seems. Like maybe when you make a phone call, try to phone someone, and you've tried a few times, and they haven't called back, That's me. I never call back. But our mood will affect the kind of response that we have, Some of us might be generous and think, well, maybe they're really busy, But if it goes on for too long, you might start thinking, maybe they're trying to avoid me, or maybe they don't like me anymore, and so on. Have you ever felt like that? Yeah. What about in Dundee they're really hot on parking tickets, Anyone experienced this? Yeah.
And it caused me a great deal of stress.
There you go. You see? And how did you feel? Did you feel that they were out to get you? Or?
Well, it was my uncle. He parked in my car parking, and it's only residents only.
I see.
And I got the blame of it.
Ah.
Yeah, Emma, you better put a letter in and say that I was only up delivering furniture. And still to this day, he's not paid his fine. And they kept sending me letters because it's in my address. But it caused a lot of friction between the family. Me and my gran fell out over it. And so they can cause a lot of stress, parking tickets.
There you go. This is a serious business,
A couple of weeks ago, the Courier had a big story about it. Basically said just ignore them. They'll go away.
They'll go away.
Well, as long as it's a private one.
It was the private one.
Gallagher's.
I think that's wishful thinking.
No, it's not, because we've only had one prosecution in the last 4 years.
That would be what my uncle was on about then, because he said that...
Just ignore them, they'll go away.
No, I think if it's a city council, they won't.
No, the council.
Yeah. But the main thing is, the idea of going through all the hassle and everything generates stress, and then, in your case, it's caused quite a few problems, So how we think about these things affect us. Like for you don't care. For her, she's in serious trouble,
The only time I was
I see you got a parking ticket from the Dalai Lama. I can't believe it. Eh?
I was queued up to get a ticket.
Well, were you in the wrong seat?
It was so long a queue.
Yeah.
By the time I came back, I got a ticket. It's the only time in my life.
I think you should write to him. See. Dear. Yeah, well, there you go. See, maybe it could cause even more problem. So there's a way of kind of illustrating this, and this is how to say, not just in relation to ordinary living, but can apply to the spiritual aspect of your life. So, I mean, in times gone by, the wise man of the village was a really important person. I saw this in Tibet, actually, how important the local kind of wise man was, or could even be a king. Everyone goes to discuss their problems, sometimes like as a group, and sometimes individually. And so, on this occasion, it was a really nice summer day, and a wise man was sitting, and this farmer turned up. And he said, "I don't know what to do. My ox has died, and I can't plough my fields. I don't know what to do. This is the worst possible thing that could ever have happened, you know." And the wise man listened intently, and he looked him in the eye and he said, "Maybe so, maybe not." So, he was expecting this great wise answer, you see. So he left disappointed and returned to his family, and then he told them, "You know, I went to see this guy because I have this really serious problem, and he's supposed to be one of the most highly developed people in the area, you know. And how could he can't be a sage if he's speaking like this, you know? Maybe he's lost his mind or something, and doesn't he understand that the death of my ox is the worst possible thing that could have happened?" So he's got the family roped in. You know, you recognize this, you know. So, you know, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened. So he went to bed and he got up and he thought, I better think about this. How am I going to manage, you know? And he was walking around, and in the distance, he saw this horse, a nice, strong, young horse, you know. And he went, maybe if I can catch the horse, everything will be okay, you know. So he went back and he got his son, and they went out and they kind of crept up on the horse, and over there they have these, what do you call them? No, this is on a stick. This is a kind of a different kind of lasso from American cowboys. And they have them on a stick. And so they were creeping up and they caught the horse, you know. And so he was going, what a blessing, you know, this is fantastic. He's able to plough his field, and it was better than before. He couldn't believe it. The horse went faster, you know. So the whole job was being done, and in record time. And he thought, this must be a blessing from the sage, you know. So he went to see the sage and he said, "Look, I'm really sorry. You know, you're right. If I hadn't lost my ox, I wouldn't have got the horse. And, you know, after seeking your advice, this is the best thing that's ever happened. Amazing. I've got this amazing horse, you know." And the sage said, "Maybe so. Maybe not." And so he looked at him again, and he thought, you've got to be kidding. So he left, and then he went back to his family and he said, that guy's nuts. I'm not going back there, So a few days later, his son was on the horse riding it, and the horse threw him off and he broke his leg. So he wasn't able to help on the farm, This is why the job was getting done really quickly. So of course, how am I going to, this is the worst thing. So then he went, oh well, I'll go and see the sage again, because I think some of it was wise, so I'm going to go back. And he went back and he said, so how can you see into the future? How did you know that this was going to happen? I don't know how I'm going to get all this work done. Now you've got to admit, this at the moment, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened. And the sage looked at him lovingly and said, maybe so, maybe not. So this time the farmer got really angry and went back to the village and the king had declared war. And all the soldiers came to the village to get all the young men. You see? And they couldn't take the guy because he'd broken his leg. And it was the only one who wasn't taking the village. And, going to war, who wants to do that? And so because of going to the sage and receiving this information and because of the way that the man thought, it had changed every time. His interpretation of the same words had altered every time depending on the situation. Does that sound familiar? Every day you think you have a routine, but your mental state is completely different each and every time that you go about doing this thing. And so, actually learning to become aware and pay attention is a vehicle for understanding how your mind works. And your interpretation of things is just sort of your fictionalized idea of something, It might not be the way it is at all, but your idea of it, is what drives you. So there's a kind of a state of mind. It's called driven doing mind. Driven doing. So there are three aspects. One is doing, and this doing mind is the mind that you've taught to drive the car and type and all this kind of thing. Then there's the driven doing, which is driven by your negative thought patterns and by your habitual behaviors and everything. And then there's a state of just simply being. Being awake and aware and alert to what's actually happening. Not your idea of what's happening, but what is actually happening. Like, I am breathing. Okay? I know I am breathing. I am aware that I am breathing. I am aware that I took a short breath there. I am aware that I took a longer breath there. Do you understand? So that's what the practice is about. That's why you have to keep repeating this thing over and over. Oh, I'm following my breath again. Yeah, but it's not the same as the last one. Do you see? Nothing's the same. Everything has changed. That seagull will not make that same noise at that time in that place. Do you understand? Yeah. Your body has changed enormously since you came into this place. It's in the process of resculpting itself. Your brain has changed its shape and everything since you came in here and meditated for a few minutes. It's affected the neurons, it's affected the covering of your brain. Do you see? It's changed you a tiny bit. But your bad habits and your wishes to avoid the meditation and your wishes to avoid becoming aware of how you really are and not how you want people to think the way that you are. So in order to work with all this, you have to become aware of how you suffer and how you cause yourself to suffer and others by the way that you think, the way that you act, and the way that you speak. It's amazing.